welcome back to Max Answers Writing Advice Questions! On today's video, I'm going to be going over one of those kind of, I don't want to say nasty situations, but it's one of those questions that I get every once in a while, and I feel like a lot of people deal with this, and I thought, you know what, it's about time that I tackled this particular issue. It's a little bit more on the serious side, but I can assure you, there will be plenty of my regular silliness along the way. You may consider this another one of those videos of writing advice that sounds just like life advice. But before I go anywhere, let me to give you the formal disclaimer and remind you, as always, that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who didn't take of this opening, but I actually ended up putting my pen in my jacket and in my shirt, and I realized that I looked like a total nerd, and I thought, you know what, let's reshoot the entire opening, because heaven knows I can't stand the thought of you thinking I'm a nerd. Chilling it out of the way. So what is today's question? Well, today's question, I get this every once in a while, I actually really do, and it's one of those really heartfelt situations, and as much as I want to make a lot of jokes, I'm going to try to keep it serious while still making jokes, you know what I'm saying? What is today's question? Well, it deals with the idea of having to let go of writing for a long time, having to let go of writing because of family issues, because of real life junk, and all of those things that get in the way of writing, and they get in the way of your writing so powerfully, so unstoppably so, that you're unable to write for a long while. Weeks, months, years, and there comes a time when you finally decide to sit down to write, and when that moment comes, the writing comes through you very difficultly, almost as though you're unable to write again. And here comes the question: is it possible that enough time has passed that you're no longer able to connect yourself through the world in which stories exist, to be the medium for the stories that connect to you, to connect yourself with the muse and such? Well, pause for emphasis. No! Of course not! That's a silly thing to say. Allow me to take this from the top, because I've answered this question for like years now. So, do I think that you can lose the magic to write? Of course not. Of course not. I've been saying this for years, and I'm going to sit down here and say it again. What is writing? Writing is the act of discovery, but it is also a discipline. It is something that you must do to get better at it. And what happens if you stop doing a discipline for years at a time? When you want to jump back into it, it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really, really hard. But here's the secret. If you keep doing it, and if you keep at it, it'll become easier. It won't become endlessly easy, because nothing is endlessly easy, but it will become easier with time. It's really as simple as that. I'm pretty sure I've used the running analogy like a million times, but I'm just gonna use it again because it just makes sense. It's the same as with any sort of physical exercise. If you are used to doing it, let's say you're used to doing football or track and field in high school, and then you go to college and you don't do it for years. When you want to go back into it, of course it's going to be hard. Of course those muscles, although there's still the muscle memory deep inside your brain, the muscles themselves have lost the practice and are not as tough as they used to be. So what do you need to do? Get back on the track, get back on the field, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from and you don't think that I'm just being offensive, because I understand where this fear comes from. I totally, clearly understand the feeling of sitting down after a long while of not writing, because I've experienced that myself firsthand, and thinking to yourselves, have I lost it? Have I lost the touch? Have I lost the ability? Will I ever be able to write stories ever again? And the answer to that, of course, is yes! Of course you can! Writing is practice. If anything, you'll just become better over time. Again, writing is a discipline, and in order for you to keep getting better at it, or to restore yourself to the point at which you were before, you gotta write. You gotta practice, you gotta put time into it. It's really the only way. Like, a lot of the questions that I get, and by that I mean basically every question that I get dealing with this subject, is phrased in the way of like, I used to be so good, I used to write so much, but now I'm not. Well, of course, you haven't had the practice. You stopped writing for what? 2, 3, 5 years because life got in the way, because college got in the way, because a kid got in the way. You cannot expect to be at the same level at which you were at the peak of your mental and writing prowess. Of course not. You gotta get back into it. One word at a time. I know people don't like to hear that. People don't like to hear, hey, write. People are always looking for an easy solution, and I'm not saying that in a condescending way, because that's part of human nature. Nobody likes to go the long way to be able to achieve the same purpose, but for this particular situation, for the act of writing, for the act of, becoming a better writer yourself, practice is the ultimate way in which you're going to be able to achieve that. There's no other way around it. Generally, I was thinking of just ending the video here, but there's one thing that I have to bring up, and one of those things that is a part of writing to some people, not to others. It's like, it's an element of the belief of the, I don't want to say the mysticism of writing because it's not actual mysticism, but I want to bring it up. Because people also say, you know, in their emails and in their messages and in their tweets, they're like, you know, I can't reconnect with the muse. I can't connect myself back to the world of this story. And there is a particular passage from Stephen King's memoir and my favorite book on writing called On Writing. I recommend you check out that book. The audiobook is way better than the printed version of the book, primarily because it's read by Stephen King himself. So you actually get that 10% extra of him actually reading his own work. And trust me, it makes it better. But in his story, or in his memoir, because it's half memoir, half actual just writing advice. And in the writing advice section, he talks about the idea of the muse. To be entirely honest, I don't particularly believe in the muse, mostly because it was not anything that I was exposed to. But Stephen King has a really good comment on it, and I want to bring it up. And it's in his memoir. And during the one of the segments on writing advice, he talks about the idea of the muse and why usually it tends to be this embodiment of inspiration, and people kind of worship it, when in reality he thinks that the muse is someone you have to work with. And he says that if he had a muse, it would look like a big, overweight plumber of a man sitting on a recliner inside of the bottom of this basement. And if you want to work with him, if you want what he's got for you, that inspiration, that nugget of perfection that comes through the act of writing, you gotta get down on that basement, get down on his level, sit down and write, and whenever that muse feels like it, they're gonna show up. But you can't get that unless you sit down and write. He talks about the fact that for him, the muse, if there was a muse for him, would only appear in the act of writing. And that's why he expresses that the only way to find that inspiration, to find the nugget from which perfection springs from which the greatest ideas come from, you gotta sit down and write. So, even if you think that maybe, just maybe, you have lost the connection to the muse, remember that the muse is not out there to work with you. You gotta work with the muse. You gotta get down on their level and work and prove to them that you can write. Prove to them that you're back. So then they show up again and sprinkle their beautiful magic inspiration dust all over your manuscript. I know, it's a little bit silly, but ultimately it's the same feeling. A long time has passed, life has gotten in the way, new jobs, new friends, new life. You know what? None of that matters because you can always go back to writing. It may be hard at first. It will probably be hard at first. But walk away from this video with the certainty that right now, the moment you start is the hardest it's ever gonna be ever again. Because the more you write, the more you get back into it, the easier it will be moving forward. Simple as that. But yes, that's pretty much all I have to say about this particular subject. If you think that maybe, just maybe, you have lost the magic to write, well, let me tell you something, Dumbo. The magic was inside of you all along. All you gotta do is sit down and write. But yes, anyhow, this room is too damn hot and I gotta get going. I want to thank you for watching. If you have your own thoughts, feedbacks, or questions you would like to send my way, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Mwah.